So how do you find the person you're gonna marry? Sometimes you just gotta shoot your shot. I think a lot of times for us that have grown up in church and believe in God and are of age to date or to get married, we sometimes think that God is just gonna drop this person right in front of us and he's gonna make it abundantly clear.
This is your spouse, this is your husband, this is your wife.
And for some of you, that might be true. But for the rest of us, that's not the reality. It actually takes a little bit of effort to figure out who this person is. The Bible uses the word find in Proverbs 18:22. In that verse, it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. What does that tell me? It tells me that there is this process of finding who this person is. The Greek word for find is this word matzah, and it means to be discovered or to be found. It shows us some roles here as well. It shows us that usually a guy is the one who is the finder or the seeker of the wife, and the wife is to be discovered, which is a beautiful picture of this process of finding who your person is. Now, does that mean for ladies out there, you can't ask a guy on a date, or you're just waiting to be found and waiting for your knight in shining armor to find you? No, I wouldn't say that. But I do think there is something there that we must take. Also, when we think about finding something, we have to be honest that you don't always find something right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time and effort to find what you're looking for. It actually brings me back to my story when I was 19 years old and I was in college, and I really, every Sunday I went to church.
I was looking for my wife. I'm just not even gonna lie.
Whatever you want to think and be like, no, I show up to church just to seek Jesus. No, I was seeking Jesus, but I was also trying to seek my wife. And I remember finally meeting, and I say finally because now she's my wife.
But at the time, I had no idea. I
remember meeting this girl who I thought was amazing. Her name was Christy. She played basketball. She loved Jesus. She was athletic. And for me, I was like,
this girl is awesome.
And I wasn't like, I'm gonna marry her one day. It wasn't any of that. It was genuinely just thought she was cute and athletic. So I was like, I want to get to know you. And so when we got to know each other, it was like 3 months in, we were just friends. And I remember my friends being like, hey bro, this girl is pretty cool. I think you should ask her out. Now, thank God for friends who tell you sometimes what to do, because if it wasn't for them, I would not have asked her out. Now, you're thinking that, when I asked her out, it ended up going awesome and amazing, and we ended up going down the path, ended up being married. That is actually not at all what happened. I was saying earlier, I shot my shot, but my shot was denied. My shot was blocked like Yao Ming blocking Kevin Hart. It was not good. She was like, no, all we are is friends, and all we'll ever be
is friends.
And so I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty devastated. I was pretty hurt. I have always disliked rejection, especially from the opposite sex. When I was growing up, when I was rejected, I remember feeling really defeated. I remember feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling like I needed to try and make myself better. I remember in that season really figuring out how important it is not to put your identity in somebody else who might reject you, who might not think you're the best, who might think other people are way more awesome than you, but actually putting your identity in Jesus. And Romans 5:8 talks about how Jesus, how God, while we were yet sinners, while we were still sinners, Christ died. What does that mean? Basically, while we were at our worst, while we did the stupidest things that we ever could have done, that's when he decided to die for us, and that's when he chose us. So you can't do much worse than your worst and still be chosen. Most people will not choose you at your worst. You can go to jail, you can do certain things, and a lot of people will leave you because of what you've done. But guess what? Jesus, he actually sticks by you regardless of your actions, which is pretty crazy. And so when you're finding your wife, can I just remind you of this? Find your identity in Jesus. Don't try and find it in the opposite sex. So I promise they will let you down. But find your identity, find who you are in him. Now the process would keep going as Christy and I would still be friends, and I was still hurt, but I still liked her. I still thought she was awesome. And we were friends for about 5 years. 5 years seeing each other at church, 5 years being in similar groups and similar friend circles. And it came back around to a point where I was like, I remember asking this question: if I had to marry someone tomorrow, who would it be? And would you believe, I was about 24 at this point. Every time I asked myself that question, Christy was who came to mind. I didn't think anything special of that. I didn't, ask that question and be like, I need to ask her out. I need to try and make sure I marry this woman. No, I held that information to myself. And I remember telling a friend after a few months that I had thought this just dumb thought or random thought. And he was like, man, you need to do something about that. And I remember being like, nah, I'm good. I already got rejected. I already got denied. I'm not doing this. And fast forward a few months and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. She's awesome. And I went to ask her out. I shot my shot again. And this time, my 3-pointer went in the basket. You better believe your boy was excited. And I remember just thinking in that moment that although God, along, all those years of being friends, didn't make it abundantly clear, like, that is your wife, he did use this thing called friendship to show me that Christy would actually be an amazing wife. And sometimes is that it's okay to just be friends. That sometimes God will use friendship to open up your eyes. Sometimes your eyes are just closed, that you can't see the person that God has for you just because everything is so normal, everything is so familiar. But sometimes God can use friendship to make that which is familiar, to let you see his plan. Can I just encourage you that God has a future for you, that you might be worried about how you're gonna find the person you're gonna marry, how are you gonna know that that's the person you're supposed to date. God is right there with you, and he wants to walk through this process with you. I remember my dad telling me, he's like, if I knew the most amazing girl, don't you think I would introduce you to her so that you could marry her? And he's like, how much more God, how much more does God want you to end up with the right person? And this is the last thing, guys, shoot your shot. Stop waiting around. Stop being like, I don't know if she's awesome and I don't know if she's good enough. I don't know. No, stop playing and shoot your shot. So don't be afraid to shoot your shot. God is going to help you find your person.